So I can say welcome to you, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Adrienne Terizzi, and I'm tonight's moderator. The League of Women Voters of Amherst and the State League of Women Voters are really pleased to present this forum on redistricting tonight. And it's been such a good news week for Massachusetts. We couldn't have planned it better. We've learned happily that we are retaining our 9 congressional seats. Apportionment's been done and our electoral votes, and we will eventually find out how many of the trillions of dollars from the federal monies are going to be poured into our state and our community. So it's been a good news week. I must say a few things about this webinar. For those of you who are listening to us, you know that even well-planned webinars have their glitches, but we are being recorded for later broadcasting. We're also being live streamed on Amherst Media. It will be broadcast on Channel 17, local access. It's also live right now on our Facebook page, and it will be on the state YouTube channel shortly. At the controls behind the scenes are very gallant workers, the State League webinar host, Alexa Williamson, and our local host, Kathy Campbell. We want to thank all our partners for assisting us tonight, and to our audience for your patience in waiting and helping us get started. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Q&A chat line is now open for your questions, which we're going to take following the program. But before we begin, it is my pleasure to introduce the State League of the Women Voters of Massachusetts co-president, Judy Zonbecker. Judy, I toss it to you.
Thank you very much, Adrienne. Good evening, everyone, and I'm so glad that you've all joined us this evening to learn about redistricting in Massachusetts and also to participate in the League of Women Voters People-Powered Fair Maps Day of Action. Leagues across the nation are participating in this day of action to raise awareness about redistricting. It happens only once every 10 years. Most of us forget how it works and need to be reminded or even start to understand the first time around how it works. And this year, of course, it is based on the 2020 census data that was just released. Across the country, we learned in 2011 that redistricting from the congressional level to the state level to the local level really impacts whether the voice of the voter will be reflected in our elected officials. So the League of Women Voters believes very strongly that the voters should be the ones who choose their elected officials and not elected officials choosing their voters. And having fair maps drawn is a key to this being occurring. The League's position on redistricting is that we support redistricting processes and enforceable standards that promote fair and effective representation at all levels of government with maximum opportunity for public participation. The League of Women Voters of Massachusetts thanks the Redistricting Committee co-chairs Senator William Brownsberger and Representative Mike Moran and the Redistricting Committee members for designing a process this year that includes and encourages public participation. And we also thank Senator Rosenberg, who along with Chair Mike Moran led these changes back in 2011 that put in place a process in Massachusetts that is transparent and really is open and invites public participation. That's really key to proceeding to having fair maps within Massachusetts. Through this redistricting process, the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts will work to educate our local leagues and communities on the redistricting process in Massachusetts. This is important for us to build our own confidence and also public confidence in the process that is taking place. We also will publicize when public hearings are being held by the Redistricting Committee. We'll encourage our members to attend the hearings and also encourage local leagues to work with local partners to prepare and provide testimony at about the local communities at the hearings. And we will also be putting up to help promote this on our webpage, on the homepage, easily accessible information on redistricting in the state, including a link to our toolkit for people-powered fair maps, and also the listing of the hearings as they're announced so that people can easily access where they are and sign up for testimony if that's what they want to do. So just to put on your calendars, if you're in Congressional District 5, The hearing for that district will be held on May 4th. That's this coming Tuesday at 5 p.m. And then the hearing for Congressional District 2, which is in central Massachusetts, will be held on May 24th, which I believe is a Monday. That was just announced today, I think. So please, if you're in those districts, I hope that you will be able to attend. And if you want to, provide testimony. If you are interested in helping our efforts at the state level towards redistricting in terms of getting information out, helping train our local leagues, please contact the state league, and then we'll get back with you about opportunities to help out. And with that, I will turn it back to Adrian. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Judy, and thank you for your support tonight, and certainly for the support that the state gives all of the local leagues throughout the year. So today, the entire day across the country is taking place to promote public awareness and to encourage people to get involved in redistricting as well as redistricting reform. I'd like to focus on Massachusetts for another minute. For our viewers, the fact is that this is a once-in-a-decade task of drawing boundaries for our congressional, state senate, House, as well as our governor council's seats. And that was with the bipartisan Joint Special Committee on Redistricting. It's composed of 28 of our legislative leaders from the Berkshires to Boston, who will help shape the elections and the faces of state politics for the next decade. Our guest tonight, and I'm so happy to see you, one was hard at work on the Hill before he could join us, former Senator Stan Rosenberg and Representative Michael Moran chaired the joint redistricting process successfully 10 years ago, and by all accounts, it was a huge success. For the first time in decades, there were no federal court challenges. Republicans and Democrats alike, as well as the League and good government interest groups, felt it was a strong showing for the 2011 redistricting. However, I think we all know that we lost a congressional seat. But the good news, the very good news, is that we gained double the number of majority-minority state house districts. Will we do it again this year? So we are so pleased to have you here with us tonight. And let's turn to the two of you. If I may, Senator Stan, you've served us in the Massachusetts legislature for 32 years, and 27 of those as a senator, representing my district, Hampshire-Franklin. And you've held so many leadership positions in that time, including Senate President. But most relevant tonight is that you twice served as the Senate Chair of Redistricting following both the 2000 and 2010 federal census counts. And so importantly, Senator Stan, you have been a member of the League of Women Voters for more than 30 years. To Representative Moran, you gave us a little bit of a heart stop when we didn't have you joining us, but we are so happy that you are here. Welcome. You first won a special election in 2005 for the 18th Suffolk State House District, where you continue to serve the residents of the Boston area. Among your positions, you are House Majority Assistant Leader, House Chair of the Joint Special Redistricting Committee, as we mentioned, a position that you also held 10 years ago. And I want to congratulate you and let everyone know that you were honored by the Massachusetts Immigration and Refugee Coalition just last year for your leadership and advocacy for the immigrant communities, for health care access, for workers' rights, and for fair political representation. So I think it's now time to say thanks for being with us. And the fact is, we're going to turn to tonight's program, and it's Redistricting 101, then and now. And so why should we care? What's at stake? Gentlemen, the floor is finally yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for organizing this event and for welcoming us. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Leader, thank you so much for being with us. I know you're coming off of 4 very challenging days of session as the House worked on the budget, which is an extraordinarily important responsibility. And of course, that actually started last week as people were filing amendments. So you probably worked through the whole weekend reading those amendments and prioritizing and getting ready for the debate. So we thank you after that Herculean task that you're here with us this evening. So thank you so much. And by the way, I think we have a new opportunity. You and I should form the Follically Challenged Caucus, and we can be co-chairs of something else together.
So I would be honored. I would be honored.
It's been a while since we've been together, and it's really great to see you. And so, some of the people in the audience have little background in redistricting. Some may have more, and even those who have had more may have forgotten a little bit of the details. So let's do some, quick reminders about what this is all about. So redistricting follows what? The process in Washington of collecting and analyzing what the census data is, and then they send it to the states. They apportion congressional districts to the states, and from then on, it's our responsibility at the state level. And so that's where you start in this picture. So what comes next?
For me?
Yeah.
So
what comes next in this process?
So, in this process, this time around, as it was 10 years ago, Stan, what comes next is sort of a listening tour, where we go out and we get ourselves educated, and the members of the Committee on Redistricting educated on each individual congressional district and what makes it unique, and why our constituents and interested advocacy groups think that we should listen and hear what they have to say with regard to the principles of redistricting, which are some of them are very clear, like compactness. That's something everybody can understand, that where you can make these districts more compact, contiguous. They have to be districts that our towns have to touch each other to make it as simple as I can. Then there are things that are a little bit more challenging, like communities of interest. What is a community of interest? Well, it's a lot of things. It could be simple as, do you share the same regional school district? Do you share the same watershed? So there's that community of interest piece that is something we have to consider. Preserving political subdivisions. That would be something as simple as, do you split Amherst up? Do you split, towns up? You don't want to do that. It's something we try not to do. So these are all issues that we kind of vet through a listening process. One that I think 10 years ago was very much different than it was in previous redistricting processes. One where we asked people to come in and give us their opinion. One where we asked people to come in and give us their maps, quite frankly. Tell us what you think we should do. And all of that listening tour or listening process, we collected a lot of information on the way. I mean, Stan, you're a Western Mass guy. I'm a Boston guy. We bring with us to this discussion very different opinions and very different life experiences. I never knew what a watershed was, quite frankly, until I did redistricting. So it was an educational time for me. I less so for you because you had done it before. But it's an educational time for all the committee members. And we gather all that information. And we digest it, and we apply the principles that I mentioned. And we try and do what's right, or what is perceived right by those principles. Now, those are principles that are pretty, some of them are very clear, some of them are not so clear. Because you have, on the backdrop of all that, you have case law, and you have the Constitution, and you have things that are much more rigid in definition. So, you have the Voting Rights Act, which is, I always call it the gold standard. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is pretty clear, where you have a massing of a protected minority, whether that's Black, Asian, or Latino. And in that massing of people, the sheer massing on a map of those people, they represent over 50% of any district you're trying to draw, whether it be congressional, Senate, House, Governor. And there's a massing of them where they comprise over 50% of the district. You should draw a district where they can select a person of their choice. Now, that choice might not oftentimes be somebody who is Black, Latino, or Asian, but you have to give them the opportunity to do that. And that's Section 2 is really the guiding principle, or the gold standard when you have that. We did that 10 years ago, and we did it to some success. I mean, we don't have that. That doesn't occur in our congressional map, because Ayanna Pressley, who represents Congressional District 7, she is a coalition majority minority district, which is, for those of you who are not familiar with that, it is Asian, Latino, and Black combined, which doesn't rise to the level of Section 2 in the Voting Rights Act. But what it is something that we have decided, both in the Senate and the House, that it's something we want to do, strive to. We want to do these coalition majority minority districts. On the House map, the last time around, we created a district in Lawrence that was a Section 2 district, which was Latino. And you had, we created a second district in Lawrence. And from that, we got Frank Moran, no relation. Frank is a Dominican person who has been in the House now for 10 years, and he serves in House leadership. So certainly Lawrence benefited from that map. And they got a person, an extra person in the House, which can advocate for issues that Lawrence are particular to Lawrence. So we're in the listening portion now. We're just starting the listening portion now. We have scheduled hearings for the 5th Congressional District, which I believe is on the 4th. You can go to the website that we have up and running, where you'll see that those hearings posted. And I believe we have now posted, I think it's sometime later in the month, one for which some of your people might be very interested in, Jim McGovern's district, which I believe is the 2nd Congressional District. That is now scheduled. So, and we're going to continue to schedule the other 7 districts. And we're gonna, it's a listening portion. To get back to your question, now we're on the listening portion of the process. The numbers have come out. We're not losing a congressional district. We have a population that's over 7 million people. We have a congressional districts, which we know now have to be 781,102 is the actual number we have to get to for each congressional district. And after we have the listening portion, then we have to deliberate and start drawing the maps for us to reach those numbers. So that's where we are in the process.
Great. That's a terrific response to one question and putting a whole lot of critical information together. So let's divide a few of these things and just sort of go back a little bit. So 10 years ago, am I remembering correctly that you doubled the number of minority majority districts in the House?
We did.
And that created opportunity, but it didn't guarantee that. But you've also described that it did lead already to some minority election of minority individuals coming into the House and rising all the way now already to leadership.
Yep. So I'll give you, that's an example of where Frank Moran, who was born in the Dominican, who is now a division leader in the House, won an election, and that district, I don't want to say was successful, because that's a little bit, that district elected somebody that we thought it would elect. But I will tell you, when you look at a district like the 15th Worcester district, right? So there's a district that we created 10 years ago. It's in the heart of Worcester, the city of Worcester. And it is 54%, 54.3% as of 10 years ago, majority minority. But they elected Mary Keefe, who is not a minority person. She's a white woman. So, and then you have districts like, I think of former Speaker Tom Finneran's district. For years, that was a majority minority district, and elected Tom Finneran. After that, it elected Linda Dorsina Forey, who ended up being a colleague of yours, Stan, in the Senate. And then after that, it elected Dan Cullinane, who was a white man. And now it's represented by a black woman. So, just because you draw a district doesn't necessarily mean it's going to elect the person that you think it might. For years in the House, Byron Rushing, who rose to the level of whip, never represented a majority minority district, and he was a black man. So you can't always predict what's going to happen, is what I guess what the point is. So,
and the big challenges 10 years ago were we lost a congressional seat.
Yep.
Our demographics changed sufficiently that we knew new minority majority districts would have to be created for Congress, for the state Senate, and for the House. And I like to say, and this is not to diminish the hard work that you have ahead of you and the hard work that's involved in this, but this is not rocket science.
No.
If you follow the rules,
yep,
and you have the proper intent,
yep,
you're going to come out with the maps that reflect what should honestly happen. And this is through the legislative process. And we have, as Adrian described, we've had many cycles where we went to court. And last cycle, we did it in a way that made sure that we followed all of the rules, and our leadership supported us in that effort. Both the Speaker and the Senate President said, do it right. And there was, redistricting is inevitably has some politics to it and some political elements to it. But our job as chairs was to navigate those politics and make the right thing happen. And the legislative process was able to produce the right thing. So those were the challenges of 10 years ago. What are the challenges this term? What are you facing this term?
Well, right now we haven't received any of the real numbers. We received the bigger numbers of that we're not going to lose a congressional district and that we have over 7 million people. We have not received the census block numbers and the precinct numbers from the census. The challenge that I see with what we do know is Congressman Neal, who represents the most western part of this state, is going to need significant population added to his district. That ranges anywhere from 30-something thousand to 42,000. Congressman McGovern needs to add to his district. Congressman Keating needs to add to his district about roughly 20,000, 17 to 20,000. So you have this migration of districts from the most western part of the state east and the most southern part of the state north. That anytime, we're very parochial, whether we like to think it or not. And people get very kind of jazzed up about the fact that Richie Neal was my congressman last time. Why is he not, but this is just correcting for one person, one vote. We have to do this, it's about fair representation for everybody. But then you have, the real issue that we have to, and Stan, this better than me, is the district that is the 7th congressional district, which is the only majority minority district we have in Massachusetts, which is now represented by Ayanna Pressley. And Stan, I got to tell you, this. We made that the first time ever a true majority minority district 10 years ago. I'm not saying that, we were solely responsible, but one could make the argument that Ayanna Pressley is in the Congress right now because of this state's commitment to making sure that that was a solid and as strong as you could make it majority minority district. As I've said before, it doesn't mean you're going to get Ayanna Pressley as the Congresswoman, but you allow that opportunity to have a real chance to happen.
In fact, Congressman Capuano got elected 4 more times.
Yep.
Until Ayanna Pressley ran,
Yep.
and she ran a campaign in a district
Yep.
that was structured for fair opportunity for a majority minority person.
And again, Stan, you and I went to DC together to meet with our congressional delegation, and Congressman Capuano, and I know you remember this, asked to have the strongest majority minority district.
That was totally amazing, wasn't it?
Yep.
And I'll tell you, when
Yep.
I went there 10 years earlier, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
he said, I know that the minority population in the Boston area is growing, and you're going to have to create a minority influence district.
Yep.
And I know that is my district, and I fully support this.
Yep.
Just be fair.
Yep.
Just be fair to me. Don't pack and don't crack. Explain pack and crack, please.
Yep. Well, packing is when you take a group of minorities that are clustered together, and you put them in a district that's so overwhelming minority that you're virtually guaranteeing that they're going to elect a minority. But if you split them up, they have a chance to elect two districts. So that's packing. Excuse me. Cracking is when you have like 60% minority clustered in one area, and you take them and divide them in 2 districts, 30-30, so that they have very little chance to elect somebody of their choice. So, and once both of those are Section 2 issues, and when you do that, you're looking at a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit. So, but back to Congressman Capuano, he asked for that. He went out and he ran a race, and the district just said, we like you. It's not that we dislike you as a person, but we want to go in a different direction. And he advocated for that. I wasn't there, 20 years ago when you were there, but I was there 10 years ago, and I know what he asked us to do. And oftentimes, Stan, that's not what is reported. but that you and I both know that that was a fact. That's exactly what happened. You know?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes me such a supporter of our process here in Massachusetts and what we've done, because 20 years ago, we headed in a better direction, but we still had our problems in terms of creating constitutionally defensible maps through a transparent process. But 10 years ago, we crossed the line into a totally open process, and you see the results of that.
Mhm.
And people, I just wish people could understand this is a job given the legislature under the Constitution, and to recognize that if legislators do the job properly, it should be acknowledged, and people should be happy that their legislature understands how to do it responsibly. And so, I'm looking forward to what you and Chairman Brownsburg are going to do, because I know you're going to build on the best of the past, not the worst of the past.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Stan, you had 10 years ago, you had Senate President Murray, who was very clear in her directive to you.
Yeah.
You had, Speaker Bob DeLeo, who was very clear in his directive to me. And it was the same directive, which is do this as open as transparent as ever has been done before, and just follow the principles and do what's right. Do what's right. And I will tell you today that Speaker Mariano and Senate President, oh geez, I'm blanking on her name. Help me out, will you?
Murray.
No, the current one.
Spilka, Karen Spilka.
Karen Spilka, geez, hello.
Sorry.
So, and Senate President Karen Spilka, they both have said the same thing. They just want, actually, I'll tell you exactly what I was told, and Senator Brownsburg was told similar. I want you to do what you did 10 years ago. That's what Ron said to me. And where you can make it better and stronger, do that. And, something we've been able to do, Stan, that we didn't do 10 years ago, the redistricting website, which is, I think, as good as you're going to get, is translated into 110 different languages. You can,
Wow.
You can give testimony, video testimony, so you can take your phone, you can record yourself, and you can send us video tests. So we're trying the very best we can to make it even more transparent, more open, more inclusive. And that's what we should do, quite frankly. And I think we're doing the best we can. I know we're doing the best.
Great.
So
let's see if Adrian, do we have any questions that you'd like to interject here? If not, we'll continue to chat this up a little bit.
We do have several questions, but
Okay.
I feel like I've been eavesdropping in the most virtuous way. This has been such an interesting conversation, gentlemen. Let me go to at least the first one. You were talking about cracking and packing, and there is an extension of that question, if I may ask Chairman Moran at this time. When you were speaking about cracking and packing, someone wants to know, is packing ever better than cracking? And if packing gets a community of interest, at least some representation, rather than no representation at all, is that good?
I don't know who gave you that question, but that's a hell of a question.
It is.
And
welcome to the League of Women Voters.
Yeah, and Stan, I know we struggled with this.
Yeah.
What is the number? What is the number that you want to reach? And what we wanted to reach was north of 65, but not north of 60. Sorry, north of 60, but not north of 65. So we felt that if you had that number in a district, that it was fair, and it was an opportunity for that group to whatever the group may be, Asian, Latino, whatever it is, it gave them a fair opportunity to elect a person of their choice. By the way, this is the tough part of it. There is no how-to manual on how to do this, right? So you can only have case law, you can have constitution, but we felt collectively as a group that was a fair number, that if we could reach that was there was a good opportunity for us. If you went over that you were approaching the packing problem where you're putting too many in a district and not giving them a better opportunity. So what you can do is you can do a district that lands around 62, 63. You get election numbers which show you a prediction of what they might do. And then what you can do is you can take another group that is contiguous, put them in another district, and that's what we call an opportunity district, where there's an opportunity for that. And if you look at projections 10 years out, that district over the 10 years that when you're not doing redistricting will get stronger and stronger and stronger. So in year 8, they may go from an opportunity district to an actual district that might elect somebody, have an opportunity to elect somebody of their choice that may give you more minority representation.
And here was the one thing that I remember that you and I disagreed with.
Yeah.
You called it an opportunity district. I called it an influence district.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm not sure the difference, but I mean,
there was no difference.
Yeah.
But and the reason that comes to mind was because 20 years ago, I created what I thought was an influence district in the Boston area, because we had a solid minority majority district and we had a weak influence district. And 10 years later, which was 10 years ago, when we went back and did the analysis, we found out that it was not an effective minority influence district, but the population had shifted enough that we could create for the Senate a second minority majority district without fracking and without packing. So,
and again, there's no black and white there. It's not like you just got to kind of do what your gut tells you is the right thing to do. And
right, if you stay with the principles,
the
law,
and
you know how to count, and you set reasonable thresholds and ceilings, you're going to be able to do this well.
I mean,
going to be fine.
Again, Stan, what the beauty of us being together, Stan, is that like we start down this road and it's like I feel like there's nobody on this call but you and me. But
really walking down memory lane.
So when you remember when we did Ayana's district, which is currently Ayana Press's district, the question then was that we were really trying to figure out was, do we go to Brockton? Do we send that district down to Brockton?
Yep.
And you're going to probably remember this. I'm not sure what the town was, but to get from Randolph to Brockton, we had to go through Avon. Is it Avon? Do you remember that? Anyways.
Well, Avon, Easton.
Yeah, there was an A, I think. So anyways,
okay.
But suffice to say that the problem is that when you went to the tip of Randolph and you went through Avon, I hope that's the town that and Avon is a very white town. And then when you got to Brockton, there was a significant amount of white population before you got to the minority population. And that when you had to travel through all those areas, it watered down the district enough that we just didn't do it, because we decided that going out the north side of the district and going into Everett, and when we looked at the Everett population, that minority, that was a new minority group in Everett, and it was going like this, as opposed to like the black population in Boston, which is very consistent, and it's been there a long time. So we went to Everett thinking that 10 years from now, that Everett is going to be even more of a minority city, and the number is going to be better than if we went to Brockton. I don't know the answer to that yet, Stan. I think we were right. From what I see, I think we were right. But that's this is really wonky, this discussion right now, but that's the stuff we
But,
have.
but it's also useful, Mr. Chairman, because there were two principles that were being violated there. Compactness,
Yep.
because you could create a more compact district the way it was created versus spreading it out, and then communities of interest.
Yep.
The further you got away from the Capuano area, heading down south, the more you were breaking up communities of interest.
Yep.
And therefore, what made sense for constitutional, based on constitutional standards, was to respect compactness and contiguity and communities of interest. And so that was the logical thing to do.
Yep.
Now, that may still present some new problems for you this year, because I don't know what's happened with the demographics, and probably this is a little too early to try to discuss that. But so maybe, Adrian, do you have another question?
Well, we have several coming in, and I want to assure the attendees that we are combining similar ones, and we'll get to as many as we can. I have several around the public hearings that you're talking about. It's the fact that you're in a listening session right now, and I know it was Senator Rosenberg and you 10 years ago who created these public hearings, I believe for the first time. But let me jump to say that people are interested not only in the public hearings and when they are, but your website. So the question asks, will your hearings, your public hearings, which we assume are going to be virtual, be closed captioned or have American Sign Language interpreters available? And there's a second part here. Will website notices be available in other languages, either in text or by by request for specific language? And hearing the demographic shift that you're talking about heavily at the eastern part of the state, can you respond to that, Chairman Moran?
Sure. They are closed captioned. And like we did 10 years ago, all of these are recorded and they're going to be put up on our website for people who want to watch them.
Would you tell us what that website is, sir?
So it's MA House, it's mass.gov. And when you go to the landing page, you'll see the redistricting button. And when you go to that site, you'll see all redistricting stuff. There's old maps, there's numbers, there's you can submit testimony by both video and written. You're going to see case law, which gives us some guardrails on how we have to do this process. You'll have a schedule for the hearings. Interestingly enough, when you go on the schedule portion of it and it's on a map, you can hit the map to where you live and it will direct you to your hearing. That's going to be particular to the congressional district that you actually live in, which is kind of a cool little thing. And like I said, it's translated into 110 different languages. And on the actual hearings, when we post them, they will also be closed caption, meaning on the bottom you'll have the 6 major languages. They'll be transliterated into those 6 languages. We're doing the very best we can with what we have as resources to make this process as inclusive as possible. We're doing a little bit more than we did 10 years ago, but a lot of it is because the technology is better. Also on the website, you will see that as we did 10 years ago, but we have 3 software programs you can download and you can draw your own maps. You download the program and you can draw your own maps. You can submit those maps to us and let us know what you think. So it's a pretty comprehensive website. One that the advocates have told me in the past that they use as a resource, not just as a place to go, but they use it as a place to, look at case law and, download the software. So it's become a resource for them that they share with their members of their associations.
Thank you for that. There's another question, a little different, but I would ask you both to respond to this. Would ranked choice voting be more likely to see the election of minority legislators in majority-minority districts?
Whoa.
It's another lead question.
I'll just say that I love the idea of ranked choice voting. I think it's a reform that would make a difference, but I can't parse it down to whether it would help minority candidates, minority candidates, excuse me. I can't think of that off the top of my head fast enough, but I think ranked choice voting in general is a policy direction that would be advantageous for democracy. But I think more important right now is to make sure that we can retain all of the portions of the reforms that were done in order to make the elections work during the pandemic. So we should analyze what worked and made a difference, and we should retain that. But I also personally support ranked choice voting.
Well, prior to me, I've been in a while. I was the chair of the Election Laws Committee for 2 terms. All of the reforms that you've seen in election laws, either I was involved in as the chair of the committee, or as a conferee on those bills. So what a conferee is when the House does a bill and the Senate does a bill, there's a conference committee. So for the last 16 years, I either served as the chair of the Election Laws Committee, or I served as one of the conferees on every major bill, every bill that has come through to reform our election laws. So very familiar with what we've done, from auditing to early voting to voting by as we did, voting by absentee, and all of the reforms that we've done over the last 16 years. I think that ranked choice voting would provide an opportunity for minorities to, I don't think so. But all of that, I guess I'd have to say, it's all based upon what the field looks like. How many people are running, what are their ethnical makeup. It's a very hard thing. That's a very hard question to answer, because you just don't know what, as I said before, you don't like, you'll have a district that we created in Worcester that we thought would give a pretty good opportunity for a Latino person to win. When Vincent Pedoni, who was the rep of that district, left, they elected Mary Keefe. So, I think that's where redistricting runs up against politics, where, sometimes people don't vote the way you think. Because if they did, Deval Patrick would have never been governor. I mean, we are not a majority minority state, and we elected Deval Patrick twice. So, I think you have to kind of provide for the opportunity for that to happen, but understand that, we are not a Westminster type of political, personalities and people matter. And if you connect with people as a politician, you have a better chance of getting elected. I look at Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker, the first time he ran for office was horrible. He was horrible, remember the signs? I forget, he had some slogan that was like, but the second time around, he was a different candidate, and probably running against a different candidate that was our nominee. But so I don't really subscribe to that idea that people vote automatically be the way you think they vote, the way you think they will vote, I guess I should say,
Mhm.
I'm sorry
Or
for that.
that you would like them to vote.
I'm sorry, that's a long answer that probably
Yeah.
said nothing, but I mean,
No, I think you got it.
Yeah.
You got a message there. Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
So let me ask another one. People are very interested in your rollout of the public hearings because it's something that can engage the voter, the resident. And the questioner asks if there will be listening sessions or public hearings for the Senate and House districts, and not just for the congressional districts.
Well, we decided that we did one in every congressional district, thinking that was enough. There is no, just because it's one in every congressional district doesn't mean you can't come in and testify on Senate and House districts. Doesn't mean you can't submit testimony through the website on Senate and House districts.
Okay.
We just thought that 9 hearings, one introductory hearing, by the way, so there's one there. There's 9 in every congressional district. There's going to be one wrap-up hearing at the end. Stan, you remember we did that last time.
Yeah.
And the reason we did is that, if there's something that's missed or something that maybe you couldn't get to and you wanted to come to, so we do a wrap-up hearing, which would give us 11. And then we're going to have, like we did 10 years ago, we're going to submit the maps as a draft for people to look at and digest. And then we're going to have a hearing. We're going to solicit public comment, and we're going to have a hearing where we will accept public comment. And I think, if memory serves me right, Stan, I think 10 years ago, we made changes in all the maps based upon the hearings that we had and the public comment we got at,
Right.
which is something that has never happened before. I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't follow national stuff, but I don't know if any state does that, quite frankly, where they submit a draft for public consumption and then solicit comments and solicit testimony on what they think of the first draft, and then, sort of adjust accordingly if there's some merit to some of the comments that they hear. And we found that there was some merit in some of the comments that we hear. And I think every map got changed just a little bit, but they got changed. So, so that's sort of the process. By the way, I want to add that we're not wed to, that number of hearings. If something comes up, if the census doesn't give us the numbers on September 30th, the way we suspect they will, we'll add hearings. We're not trying to have less public comment. We want more public comment, if needed, so that's sort of, we think right now with 9 hearings in each congressional district, 1 in the beginning, 1 in the end, 2 more hearings on the maps when they come out. Right now, we think that that's enough, but we could change that. We might add a couple of hearings if we have to. So,
And as I
Tell us
recall,
first what those. Yes.
Adrian, as I recall, 10 years ago, we actually got feedback on the number of hearings and the locations of hearings, and we actually added a couple of hearings to the schedule. And as the chairman has said earlier, people can submit testimony on anything at the hearings, any of the rep, senator, or Congress. And they can also submit comments and written testimony through the website on at any time, even without the hearing. So, and all of that information is read and considered. Am I correct?
I think it's
Yes.
important. I think it's important for everybody, because it's tough, because I just see Stan on my screen. I don't really know how many people are on the call, but I think it's everybody that needs to understand that, no one's hiding the ball. This is not, that no one, there is no nefarious thing going on here. Maybe, and I will admit, in the past, there might have been. I wasn't a member of the House back then, but there might have been, but there is nothing nefarious going on. If we have to have 15 hearings, if we have to have 20 hearings, we'll have as many hearings as we possibly need. Because we just want to do the right thing. This isn't look, as Stan said earlier, there is politics involved in all this stuff. But to the point that, we want to make that as minimal as possible. The numbers are going to drive this, as they did 10 years ago. The numbers are going to drive our decisions. The case law and is going to drive our decisions. The Constitution is going to drive our decisions. The principles that we outlay, right up for everybody to see, are going to drive these decisions. And in the end of the day, we hope that people give us the opportunity to make the case and do the right thing and look at this through that lens, a lens that is us trying to do the right thing. And I hope that we have the same results that we did 10 years ago.
Well, thank you. We are coming to the end of our time. I wish we could go on and on. It's been very interesting. Yes, based on the success of the redistricting that you two shared together with your legislative colleagues, we will look forward to an even more successful time around. If we had one last question, it would be this truncated timeline based on census delays creates a great many other issues. Having to end now with deep regret, I just want to say a couple of more words. We've heard tonight, we can get involved. We've heard from the League how people-powered maps and the fact that we all together, our legislators, certainly League and voters alike, want fairness and fair representation. So I've heard tonight, redistricting is a priority for the League, but I've heard tonight from the both of you that we have a chance to be heard. We have a chance to participate. Let's go to the website, attend a district public hearing, a congressional public hearing. We can also email our legislators. And at the local level, we can also participate in our local district advisory boards. In Amherst, I am sure, like many communities around the Commonwealth, Amherst has already begun their process and will be appointing members to the local districting board. So that's another way to be involved. However, the fact is we won't have those specific precinct census block numbers until late in the summer. So I guess we're driven by our constitutional regulations that say we're going to get it done and we're going to get it done together. Thank you so much for helping us find the way tonight. Senator Stan Rosenberg and Representative Michael Moran, our deep gratitude to you. Much appreciated for all the work you're doing and for all the work you have done. We'll be in touch. And to our audience, for your great questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of them. Thank you for joining us. And please mark your calendars because the League has another event coming up on May 13th when we'll be hosting Lana Zamora, who's a longtime climate specialist with the state Legislative Action Committee. I'm sure you've both heard of the state's Legislative Action Committee. They're frequently at your doors. But Lana is going to be talking about the new climate law. You know the one the next generation roadmap for Massachusetts climate policy. So I hope you will join us for that. The people who've joined us tonight, our appreciation, and once again to our special guest. Have a great evening. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Stan, always a pleasure, my friend.
You're great. You're
We'll
going to do
talk-
great.
We'll talk to you soon. All right.
You're
All right,
both
bye-bye.
great and appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.